So, have you ever stopped and noticed how weird our culture is right now? On one hand, we are surrounded by all these messages of self-empowerment, radical individualism. But on the other hand, studies show we are lonelier than ever. It's a huge paradox. In this explainer, we're going to unpack that tension, pulling from a little bit of philosophy, some psychology, and even evolutionary biology. All right, let's get into it. It all kicks off with phrases just like this one. Live your truth. I mean, you hear it everywhere. It's become this modern mantra. And look, on the surface, it sounds amazing, right? It's like the ultimate permission slip to just be yourself. But it's also step one in a cultural script that's telling us the absolute highest goal is a very, very individual kind of personal fulfillment. And then you hear this. This one adds a kind of defensive layer to the whole thing. The world out there is demanding, and your internal energy, well, that's precious. You got to build a fortress around your well-being. And yeah, setting boundaries is healthy for sure. But just notice how the focus keeps getting narrower and narrower, pointing right back at yourself.
And that leads us to the final, and let's be honest, the most ruthless step. This is where relationships become totally transactional. People are either an asset to your personal journey or they're a liability. And if they don't serve you, well, they're disposable. It completely reframes human connection as a utility, like something you just use for your own story.
So this is the big question, isn't it? If all this self-focus is really the key to a better life, why does it seem to be leading straight to isolation? If we're all out here living our most authentic lives, why do so many of us feel so deeply disconnected? It's a real puzzle, and to solve it, we've got to look a little deeper. Okay, so to really get what's happening, we have to look at where this whole idea came from. Because this isn't just some passing Instagram trend, it's a really powerful moral ideal that's been shaping our culture for centuries. The philosopher Charles Taylor, he calls it the ideal of authenticity. He actually frames it as a moral imperative, like this is what a better, higher way of life is supposed to look like. The idea is that every single one of us has a totally unique way of being human, and our whole purpose in life is to find that uniqueness and then live it out. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this whole thing is framed as a solo quest. Taylor says your originality is something only I can articulate and discover. The whole journey is inward. In this view, you don't look to society or a tradition or even other people for the answers. Nope, you just look inside yourself. But here's the catch. Like any big, powerful ideal, this one has a dark side. Taylor warns that when this inward journey becomes the only journey we take, authenticity can kind of curdle into a type of self-absorption that actually defeats the whole purpose. Taylor calls this the slide to subjectivism, and it happens in a few stages. First, the self becomes the absolute center of the universe, the only source of what's important. Second, that leads us to shut out any demands from other people or from society that might get in the way of our personal project. Third, we lose what Taylor calls horizons of meaning. The shared values, the history, the social bonds that actually give our lives weight and significance. And the result of all that, life becomes, in his words, flattened and narrowed. It becomes trivial. So, the most important point is this. This idea of a purely internal, self-created identity, it's a total myth. We aren't these lone geniuses just discovering some pre-packaged self. As the psychologist Jerome Bruner argued, our identity is something we are actively building all the time, and we never, ever do it alone. Bruner called this the transactional self. And pay attention to that language. Bruner talks about dealings and transactions. But unlike the self-help version, this isn't about what you can get from other people. It's about co-creating a shared world together. Every single conversation, every relationship, every shared laugh, it's a transaction that defines and redefines who we are. He says that achieving that connection with someone is achieving a kind of solidarity. And get this need for connection, it's not just some philosophical idea. It turns out it is baked right into our biology. Our evolution as a species has been fundamentally shaped by our need to form and maintain social bonds. Let's look at this number, 40%. According to the evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar, if we humans tried to keep our social bonds strong the way other primates do, by physically grooming each other, we would have to spend about 40% of our entire day just doing that. Can you even imagine? Almost half your waking hours would just be, picking nits out of each other's hair. We would literally starve. So, as our ancestors' communities got bigger and way more complex, they ran into an evolutionary crisis. The old method of social bonding just couldn't keep up. It was impossible. So, evolution found this brilliant, efficient workaround, a social hack, if you will. Dunbar calls this new tool vocal grooming. His whole theory is that language didn't evolve so we could exchange facts, like, hey, there's a line over there. It evolved to create social connection. Talking, gossiping, telling stories, sharing how you feel, that's the human equivalent of monkeys grooming each other. It's how we build trust and maintain our friendships in big groups. It's our original bonding technology. Okay, so let's bring all these pieces together. We've seen that ourselves are built through negotiation, and that our brains are literally hardwired to bond with other people, which kind of suggests that maybe our modern idea of authenticity has it completely backwards. Maybe the path to finding ourselves isn't about looking inward at all, but about looking outward to each other. And this quote just nails it. Even Charles Taylor, the guy who wrote the book on authenticity, argues that our identity is fundamentally dialogical. It's a conversation. We figure out who we are in dialogue. And yeah, sometimes in struggle with the people who matter to us. We literally can't do it alone because the very definition of a self requires someone else to talk to. So we're really left with two totally different paths. On one side, you've got the solo quest, the whole live your truth mindset. It's self-defined, it ignores what others need from you, and it's all about my truth. And as Taylor warned, that path often leads to a pretty trivial, flattened life. But on the other side, you've got the dialogical self. It's defined with other people. It requires negotiation and compromise. It's not seeking my truth. It's trying to build a shared our reality. And in doing that, it creates those horizons of significance that make a life feel meaningful. And this is really the ultimate takeaway here. The hyper-individualism that promises us all this fulfillment often just delivers loneliness because it completely misunderstands what a self even is. A meaningful life isn't about curating a perfect private self and cutting off anyone who doesn't fit into your story. It's about the messy, beautiful, and totally necessary work of building a shared life with others, which, yeah, sometimes means compromising a little bit of your authentic self to build something bigger together. So I'll just leave you with this question. When you really think about your relationships, which path are you on? Are you genuinely building a community with all the compromise and negotiation that requires? Or are you just casting characters in a story that's all about you? The answer might tell you a lot, not just about who you are, but who you could become.